In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to set up an appointment reminder sequence using ActiveCampaign. And the reason I'm creating this video is I had a couple of clients asking me to do this. Of how can we set up either an email or SMS appointment reminder sequence in ActiveCampaign? And for me, even someone who is a no-code automation expert, and I work with a lot of email marketing tools like ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, HubSpot, I found it quite tricky to actually work out how to do this the proper way in ActiveCampaign. So I'm going to quickly show you the 3 things we need to have set up to create a great appointment reminder sequence. The first thing you're going to need is a custom field in ActiveCampaign for your contacts so you can save the appointment date, because we're obviously going to be basing the reminders and the conditions in the automations off this date. So you can see here at the bottom of my account, there is a field called appointment date, and very, very important, it must be a date type. There's also date time types in ActiveCampaign, but the automations and the conditions, like if this, then that, only works with the dates. So do not use date time. You have to use just date. And then you can call the personalization tag whatever you want. I'm going to quickly walk you through the actual automation in ActiveCampaign. So this is the main automation that sends the actual reminders. They can be SMSs or emails. Depends if you've got a SMS sender like Twilio connected to ActiveCampaign. But we're going to also have supporting automations that help put people in and out of this main automation. I'll show you those after this one. To explain the main idea of this automation, what I'm doing in this case and what I'm setting up for this client is we're sending 3 reminders over the course of 7 days. But if we think about it, we always want to send 3 reminders. That's the goal with this situation. But let's say someone books relatively short notice. Maybe their appointment is only 3 or 4 days out, and we've made this assumption that we're going to send them over 7 days. Then the question is, well, how do we do that? How do we cram all these SMSs or reminders into the same time frame? And the answer is, I don't believe you really should, because someone's going to receive 3 reminders over the course of a very short time period, and it could be a bit overwhelming. And it's not necessary. If someone books for appointment for tomorrow, they're not really going to forget they've booked it. Or if they book something in 2 days' time, it's still top of mind. Reminders are more important if it's booked like a week out, because people forget stuff, people get overwhelmed. And that's the premise I built this automation with. To explain to you just briefly what's going on, and then I'll go into the details, you can see here on the left side, there's a main branch. That is our main sequence. That's the perfect sequence of if their appointment is booked at least 7 days out, they're going to receive all 3 SMSs or emails, no problem. That's the golden path, the happy path, you can say. But again, what I just said, what happens if they book within a shorter notice period? We don't want to cram in all those 3 SMSs. So we're going to jump them to the correct location. So if we assume the first SMS or email is going to go out 7 days before the appointment, but they're booking 4 days, I mean 5 days ahead of the appointment, well, then we're going to want to jump them into the correct location. So you can see what's happening here. The first condition is essentially checking that thing of, have they booked at least 7 days ahead of their appointment? And if they have, then we can just put them into the happy path. But if not, if they're less than 7 days away from the appointment, then we're going to check, well, where do we need to put them into this automation? And I just keep doing those checks. So, okay, they're booking less than 7 days away. Then I'm checking, well, the next milestone here was going to be 4 days away, because I was going to send an appointment reminder 4 days ahead of the appointment. So I check, well, are they valid for that appointment? So I say, is the booking more than 4 days away or 4 days away? And if yes, then I just pop them into that normal wait period. And you can see again, I'm waiting until the current date is 4 days away and the current time is 7 a.m. So there is no way in ActiveCampaign to use the date time, as I said, in the conditions. So we can't say wait until this time of day as a variable. So we're making kind of assumptions pretty much. We're saying based on the appointment date, wait and send it at 7 a.m. as opposed to 9 a.m. So I'm just making an assumption that that's a good time to send. And again, the logic just keeps going here in that, let's say they were actually even closer to the appointment date. It's less than 4 days away. So we don't want them to receive a reminder that says, hey, your appointment's 4 days away. So I'm checking, while my last milestone in this one is the reminder the day before. So I'm checking, is the date of the appointment more than 1 day away or at least 1 day away? And if it is, I put them into that final reminder. But let's say they booked on the day. I'm not going to send them a reminder because they're going to remember it. I probably don't even need to remind them of it being 1 day away, but we do put them into that last one. So that's the main flow. And you can expand this out. If you want to say send these SMSs over a 2-week period, you can just expand the logic out. Now we need the automation that actually puts the people into the reminder sequence. And we can do this in ActiveCampaign as well. We don't necessarily need to use something like Zapier or Make to add or remove them from the automation. What we can do is I set up a automation that is triggered by a contact field changes. And we created a custom field earlier for the contact for appointment date. And you can see here, I chose appointment date. I make it from any value to any value. So if it goes from no appointment date to suddenly there's appointment date, this will run. If there is an appointment date and that appointment date is rescheduled, this will also run. So this handles first time people book and also if they reschedule or just book again in the future. If that appointment date changes, they will get put into this sequence. And the next steps are very easy. What we're doing is we first remove them from the previous automation sequence I was showing you, the appointment reminders one, because we don't want them to be in the same sequence more than once if their appointment day has changed. Then we put them back into the sequence because we want them to restart and wait. And then we just end the automation, end this automation. The only reason I'm doing that is just to be safe. It's to make sure that they officially end and we don't have any issues then if this automation needs to re-trigger because they reschedule or they cancel or something like that. The last steps is to actually get the appointment date into ActiveCampaign so the automations can get running. And in ActiveCampaign's case, if you're using Zapier, we also have to set up an automation to clear the appointment date value if someone cancels. So we can be sure that the correct automation runs as well. You can see here, all you need to do to get the appointment date into the calendar is to have your first step be invitee created. So a new appointment is booked in Calendly. And then your next step is create or update contact in ActiveCampaign. And you can see here, I just add the values that I'm given from ActiveCampaign, email, first name, last name, so we can be sure there's a bit of personalization. And then right at the bottom, you'll see we have the new custom field that we added, appointment date, and I put the scheduled event start time from Calendly into that field space. As I mentioned, because we've just updated the value, they're going to get put into that ActiveCampaign automation that picks up when the appointment date changes, and it's going to re-put them into the appointment reminder sequence. Now the question is, what happens if someone cancels? Unfortunately, we do need to use another Zapier automation for that because in ActiveCampaign, we can't just leave an empty field for the value used in Zapier. It just won't work. And also, invitee created doesn't pick up cancellations. In that case, we have another automation called invitee canceled in Calendly, or it's triggered by that. And then I add them to another automation, which I'm going to show you, ActiveCampaign. All that automation does is we just give the email address and put them into an automation I called clear appointment date. And I'm going to show you that automation now quickly, and then we're done. The clear appointment date automation in ActiveCampaign is literally one step. There isn't even a trigger because we manually put the person into it via Zapier. And then we have one step, which what it does is clear the existing value from appointment date. And all that step is a contact field to update action. So I'll quickly show you, update a contact, and then you choose the appointment date, and then you just say clear. And what's that going to do? That's going to trigger the other automation that we have right here, because the appointment date has changed now from any value to another any value. The other value is just an empty one. So what's going to happen is it's going to put them into the automation again, and then just finish. I realize now I can probably make a little update to this automation and basically check if there is a field value, if there is an appointment date value, and then just exit the automation and end the automation and not put them in again. But it doesn't really matter because the conditions of if the date is before this or that won't work anyway in the first automation. That's it for now. That's all we need to set up to have a nice appointment reminder sequence in ActiveCampaign. And again, this sequence will send 3 reminders over a 7-day period. But if you wanted to send more reminders, you could just follow the logic I spoke about when I showed you the automation the first time. Or if you wanted it to be over a longer time period, you just expand out the logic the same way I described to you. And again, all we needed was just 2 or 3 quick automations in ActiveCampaign. Then we needed to use Zapier or something like Make.com just to get the value of the appointment date into Calendly, and then we were good to go. But if you do want to do a direct connection between Calendly and ActiveCampaign, that's also another option, and I can talk about that in a video if people are interested. But if you want help, just send this all up instead of copying through the video. You can also just reach out to me and I can talk about helping you automate some of these systems in your business, because that's exactly what I do.